Hey mate, and welcome back. How are you?
Not bad. It seems a bit lonely with just the two of us.
It is very weird. I mean, we did mention that we would be down Fernando for a little bit. I'm happy to announce that he did successfully complete his road trip, and he is in the process of settling in. And then hopefully we'll have him back in the next week or two, because he did say he was going to try and get his studio set up. So he's big life change for him. So if you're watching, hey mate.
Hey.
So,
Thought a bit of a different one.
Yeah.
Kind of ties into the Dogman, Michigan.
yeah.
Well, it can tie in about the crazy mountain people or the inbred mountain people,
And the ferals and all of those people.
ferals.
Yeah.
Something a little bit different. I haven't got a whole heap of information about this because a lot of it is what they call hearsay
Yeah.
and
Well,
local stories.
Do you want me to kickstart it off? Or do you want to get going first?
Well, for something sitting there.
I think the big thing a lot of people think about when they hear about the feral people and the weirdos and stuff like that is that old classic movie, The Hills Have Eyes. I think everybody's seen that, at least the original one. I mean, I think it's been remade, and there's obviously a few different versions of it and stuff that have come out over the years, remakes and everything. But did you know it was actually based in reality?
Really?
Yep. But not from America.
Hills Had Eyes.
It goes back to Scotland, and that's where it first started.
Ah, see, that's where it ties in as well, because it also said on some information I was reading that the ties back from the crazy mountain people, actually that specific part, they actually came from Scotland immigrant families,
Yep,
or Scottish immigrant families.
yep. And I'm
The
talking about.
Appalachian Mountains.
Oh, I don't know about that side. You can go into that in a little bit, but if you've ever heard the name Alexander Sawney Bean, he was the leader of a clan of about 45 people in Scotland who didn't really fit in with normal folk. So they headed off into the wilderness of Scotland, right along this big cliff, right near the ocean. And it was very close to a major trade route, and a lot of people would travel this particular road. Now, you can still get there to this particular cave even now, but it's literally you pull into a car park in the middle of nowhere, and it's a long way down. But if you know where to go, you can actually find this cave. Now, what happened was when they didn't fit in, he ended up finding this cave, and all 45 people in the clan lived inside this cave. And the way they made their money and their food was they would have people up towards the top near where the road is. And when people, would travel through or, there was goods and services going through, like, food trucks and, well, not food trucks, but you know what I mean, hauling grains and things like that, they would attack them, bludgeon them to death, or if they couldn't bludgeon them to death, they would actually throw them and get them and overpower them and throw them off the cliff. They would ransack all of the wagons for all of the goods. And then the wagons were thrown over. They smashed to pieces. They were taken in for firewood. All the grains were kept, and the people were dragged into the cave and cannibalized, and they fed on the travelers. And rumor has it, their body count was over 1,000 people.
So with that and the whole cannibalism thing, wouldn't the disease called Kuru come and set in with them?
I don't know.
Because
that much about it, but I can imagine that there's a fair bit wrong with them anyway if they're doing that kind of thing.
yeah, because what they say is the consumption of human meat can give you Kuru because it affects your cerebellum, which is responsible for coordination, or they call it the laughing death.
Well, apparently what happened was over the years, these people they had a look about them because of what they were doing. It was affecting them physically. And then there was a young girl who, she was part of the family, and she didn't like what was going on, and she just wanted to She was a bit of a social butterfly kind of thing. And eventually, when she was up top, supposedly to kill these people, she escaped and she ended up in this little town about 30 miles away, something like that. And she actually created a whole life for herself. And it wasn't until years and years later that somebody recognized her as part of this family. And because they were notorious in that part of Scotland, as soon as everybody found out about it, she was taken out, hung, noose around her neck. It was thrown over a tree, and she was dragged up, and she was left and displayed for the whole village to see as she was killed, even though she'd never actually reportedly had done anything. But because she was part of this family, and she was killed, and that tree still stands today, and it's fairly infamous. In fact, the some of the buildings there, and I think the house that she lived in is still there as well. So you take from that, and that is a pretty gruesome sort of story. And that's where the base is. Apparently, that's where they got a lot of the stuff. Then obviously Hollywood did its bit, and they did what they did to create The Hills Have Eyes. And it just goes to show, anywhere in the world, you're always going to have these ferals around who live off the land, or they will do whatever they need to do to feed their families. And I don't know.
I suppose you got ferals everywhere. Like, you just go to the Southern River area where it's a lower income area.
Where I used to live.
Banana.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anymore. I'm not saying anymore.
No.
People don't need to know exactly where I live, but...
no, that's why I didn't say it.
Yeah. But it's funny you mention that, because before we go into some of the other stuff from America, we've got some stuff here in Kings Park that you know a little bit about.
We do. There's drips and drabs of it, and it goes with the whole missing persons and not wanting to go there at certain times of night. There's been stories told of a witch's coven that is out there.
I think we've all heard that, yeah.
Protect people with the whole 13 tree. It is hard to find. It is findable. It took me a while. But there's stories from them as well that you can actually research, where they supposedly protect the homeless that sleep in Kings Park.
Yeah.
There's also been murderers that have been found out through Kings Park. Obviously, being that you have such a large homeless rate, people sleep out there, and I suppose it's just easy pickings.
And it's such a big place, and there's so many spots where you can't easily get to by road.
It's huge. It is huge. But no, there's been stories and reports of people going missing through that area and then waking up on their doorstep about 3 or 4 days later with no recollection of what's going on.
Oh, that I haven't heard. I've heard about the witches, and
through that coven. What they've actually said is, some people, they actually supposedly put spells on them, and it wards them off back to where they're supposed to be, which it's different.
I know years ago when I was young and I actually had hair on top of my head, we would go up there on a Saturday night, and I mean, for anybody who doesn't know Kings Park here in Perth, it's a big park right next to the city, and the main part of it has actually got city views and river views, and it's a spectacular place. But you've only got to walk 5 minutes down one of these little dark walkways, and you're in an absolute
bushland.
Yeah, your heebie-jeebies go up, and it's like, we did that once just because we heard the stories about the witches and things, and we went for a bit of a walk, and we didn't get too far before there was some weirdo sort of just stood in the bushes, and they were just watching, and it was like, do we go past or do we not? Because I was a lot younger then, and while I was still at that point investigating the paranormal, actual real-life people were more scary to me, so it was, I don't think we risked that.
But it's the same as like some cemeteries that we've been to, another location with a big tunnel that we've been to. It's the same sort of thing. You get them everywhere.
And that's another big forest, that one as well.
It is as well. There's a lot of places to hide.
Yeah.
But another one as well, like Angara Pines Plantation.
Well, that's not that far from you, and you've got some bloody stories about that place as well, which is...
I suppose we could probably do a whole episode on that, but let's
Yep.
touch on it. Yeah, I've seen and assisted with people out there that were non-responsive. I'm not going to do too much detail, but
No
there's also, I think it was reports that the Bernies also hid
bodies out
body
there.
out there as well. There's a few graves out there for people that to be remembered. But who's to say there's not people actually living out there and surviving off of bits, strips, and drabs that are left?
I mean, with my wife working in the field that she works in, they do get a lot of figures come through, and I think even just in the area where I am, they reckon on any given evening there could be between me and not going to name places, but within sort of 10 k's, there could be anything up to 500 to 1,000 people sleeping out on a beach or in a car park or stuff like that because they're just homeless. And especially with the cost of living that everybody's going through at the moment, things are so expensive and life is so tough that a lot of people are resorting to living wild, I guess. And how long does it take before your human nature sort of drops away to that need for survival?
I suppose there's always been that stigma around people that live in the hills.
Well, this is it. I mean, I've
You
always heard about that.
You distance yourself from civilization and your natural instincts just kick in, that inner animal.
Well, everybody's heard about the old strange hermits that live around, and you even look at things like Grizzly Adams and stuff, which, you know what I mean? There's always people that live out there, but they live off the land. It's a different thing when you're living off the people who are passing through the land. And there's a definite difference between ferals and just ferals. You know what I mean?
I suppose you got the tribes on islands just off of Australia as well.
New Guinea and all of that.
Yep. Well, that was the big one with the kuru. That was the fatal brain disorder, which occurred at pandemic levels from the 50s to the 60s among the 4 people in New Guinea.
Wow.
Which pretty much it starts to shut down your nervous system and it causes trembling and pathological bursts of laughter, which is a symptom of the disease.
And to anybody who's witnessing that kind of behaviour and whatever, you're going to think, man, they're crazy.
Kuru itself means trembling. Not a lot of people have survived Kuru. There are some that survived the epidemic, carry a genetic mutation called V127. But after being diagnosed, generally it's 1 to 2 years people pass away.
Yeah, well, honestly, I don't know how they would keep a track of people like that. You know what I mean? Because if that's the kind of lifestyle they're living, I can't imagine.
Well, that's not being diagnosed. That's an onset of symptoms.
Oh, right, okay.
I couldn't. Hysteric outbursts of laughter. You get that through the mental health system anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, getting back to the feral people and stuff like that, you hear about. I mean, you mentioned the Dog Man earlier and stuff like that. I remember watching an X-Files episode on the Jersey Devil. I think it was back in season 1 or something along. It was way back, and it came to these people that it was just feral people that were living there. It wasn't a strange beast in this episode anyway. And they said, was it a one-off or is it the same person that's lived for a long time or is it a family? And it'd be unusual for somebody to live ridiculously long life in that kind of environment. So you would assume that, if there's a family, there's at least one male and one female that are getting a little feral under the sheets. And, and this is the thing, right? If they get feral and they have families, well, they're only going to learn from what they see. And it's almost like a wild pack of dogs. It's how far does the human psyche revert when they don't have a role model to take them in the right direction and teach them the lessons that we've all been taught? And
then you get the inbreeding as well, which then we saw what that did with the European royalty.
We won't, but yeah. there are a lot of.
I'm not talking current. I'm talking historically.
Yes. Well,
Not talking about Mr. Sausage Fingers.
The man who cannot sweat.
Yes. But it's what I mean. Like, how long do you put a lifespan on them? not being taught certain things, no knowledge, inbreeding, tight knit circles.
Well,
I suppose we've just nailed down Alabama, but
you think about it, right? It's only going to take one catastrophic change in the world dynamic, and then they become the alphas because we're so reliant on technology and everything, going to the shops to get our food. If there's something like that old TV show Revolution happens, if the power goes out and it never comes back on, we've got no cars, we've got no vehicles, we've got no computers, we've got no communications other than the old-fashioned write a letter and stuff, And even that's going to run out because where's paper going to disappear to unless people learn the old art of making paper and learning to farm their own food and make their own food and butcher their own food.
I'm all right with that.
Oh, I know that. But what I'm saying is at some point when all the stuff that is being provided disappears, you're going to have to revert to hunting and stuff like that. And again, I know it's all right if you've got I suppose you've got your bow, haven't you? You've got a bow if you've got
Call it that.
The other things. Yeah. And eventually you have to revert back to living off the land. At that point, they're going to have the advantage because they've been doing it for so long.
Look, I say do it. Cut the power, natural selection, and we'll start again.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's on the cards at some point.
That's a whole other topic.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. That one.
It actually is a good topic.
Yeah. What would you do? I don't know.
Well, I've got a fair idea. I'd enjoy myself because I'm not going to be the only person on Earth.
No, it would be everybody else as well. I don't know. I think.
But we're talking about this. We're not getting sidetracked.
Yeah, anybody that watches this show knows we get sidetracked so easily.
We do, but that's actually a really good idea.
The lights go out. What next?
Yeah, now my head's going.
Yeah, I think we might have to record again and do that one. But
no, this one's all right.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, wherever you are in the world, tell us the stories. Right in the comments, tell us the stories of the local feral people around where you are, because I'm pretty sure everybody's got stories.
And we're not talking about the mother with 6 children that don't wear shoes and their clothes are ratty.
No. We're talking about the wild folk of the hills. I know I used to be friends with a lady that lives in Cairns up in the northeast, far north of Queensland. And she was right into the paranormal. I'm not going to name her name, but she was right into the paranormal and whatever. And we used to talk quite regularly. And she was saying that literally, if you look over her back fence, there's a whole mountain behind her, and it is sealed off to the public. It's military controlled.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and apparently there's a feral guy that is known who lives in there. Apparently he was well off, but he just decided, I'm just going to go and live off the land. He's still got a massive house and everything down there, but he hasn't been to it for years. He lets people know he's alive when he comes into town and does things, but he lives off the land, and every now and then there's sightings of him, and it's like seeing bloody Bigfoot. I can't remember his name.
It's like the sightings of Mad Dog.
Well, I've had an encounter with Mad Dog.
Yeah, I suppose you could call him a crazy person, but he's not really.
He had a messed up
crazy. Pardon?
He was a really smart university guy.
His name's Adrian.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a couple chats with him. I used to work in the area you used to ride through.
Yeah.
I swear Australia needs to get that guy in to do cycling for the Olympics.
If anybody wants to look him up, look up Mad Dog Perth WA, and there are photos of him on his bike.
He wears his what we'd call them stubby shorts or footy shorts.
Stubby short shorts, and he usually wears like a singlet, what a lot of people call like a wife beater kind of thing.
Barefoot or flip flops. That's it. You won't catch him wearing shoes.
Yeah, got his beard and his long hair.
My auntie actually saw him buying flip-flops from Target years and years ago.
I'm going back to like the 80s, and we were going into Perth one night to go night clubbing, and somebody said something, "Hey, what?" And I sort of looked to the window, and I had my window down because it was a warm night. And as I went to look like this big hairy head just comes straight in, looks at me and goes, "Arr!"
That's what he does.
That's it, he's off. And he's just pedaling away, and he does.
He can talk.
Yeah.
What it is people see him and they start yelling out "Mad Dog" out the window. And what a lot of people don't understand is he knows he has a name.
Yeah.
People know his name, but they will not communicate with him as his name, so he gets upset.
Yeah.
He is the only guy that I've ever seen on a push bike to catch traffic going 70 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
And I've seen him smash windscreens because people just yell at him.
Yeah.
So apparently after he'd finished school, from what I've been told, someone that went to school with him went on a whole schoolies after school thing, got on a big bender and melted his brain with drugs.
Yeah. That's what I heard.
He's still got a house. He's got money. He just goes around on a push bike and
Yeah.
does his thing.
Now,
He's like the world's fittest fat man.
he's not what we would call a feral man, but if you looked at him, he matches the description of
He does match the description.
of a feral man. But
That's what I was getting at with that.
yeah, and he's been around Kings Park. He's been seen around Kings Park as well,
Well, most of your sightings through Midland, Bellevue,
and Perth,
Midland.
where I had my encounter with him. You know the big roundabout in front of the police headquarters in East Perth.
Yep.
We were at the lights there, and
Yes.
he's riding through on his pedal bike, and there's like
Deadly
4
friendly,
lanes wide, 5 lanes wide, and he just and then he smiled and then just took off. Big grin.
Can you imagine that at Olympics inside the velodrome? Start cycling, someone's in front. Yeah,
I reckon he'd do a better job of breakdancing than the other person.
let's not get into that.
No.
She should not have been there, and her husband shouldn't have helped her get there.
Nope. That's a different story altogether. That one. And,
Well, hey, look, she was that bad that they actually cancelled it for the next Olympics. So
yeah. That was pretty bad.
they should just put in pole dancing. And I'm not saying that as a sexist standpoint. I'm talking about the physical body control, the muscles and core control you have to have.
And the costumes that they'd be wearing, it would be one of the most well-received events.
Better than beach volleyball.
Yeah.
But it takes skill. I've tried to dance on a pole and people told me to get off the stage.
When we were making that film, 1%, they had the stripper poles there. And somebody said,
not
go on,
easy.
see if you can hang on it. I nearly had I went down head first.
I put a leg over that pole, mate, and gave myself an aneurysm.
There was no grip. There was nothing. I just went
No.
straight down.
No.
So, but
It's a
yeah.
sport.
Anyway, we'll get out of pole dancing because again we have been tempted away from the subject matter. I mean, we're just about out of time anyway. We're at 25 minutes in.
It was
So
just a little bit of film.
yeah.
You brought up the breakdancing.
Well, we were talking about Mad Dog, and what was her name again?
She looked like she was getting chased by bees, or she was trying to find her spot in a cube with one empty spot further forward.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we won't talk about her anymore. She doesn't. I actually took a little bit of offence to the way she did what she did because.
With the kangaroos and the snake and everything else.
Well, she could have made it look like breakdancing. There's so many people that tried so hard to get in there. She gets the spot, and then she does that.
She made the job title for herself, and her husband was on the panel.
But anyway,
Oh, that's political.
Feral People. Do you want to visit this cave in Scotland?
I would love to go.
It's there's actually a video. If I can find the video, I will share the link. And it's this couple that they go to a lot of different paranormal places, and they actually did the trip down. Now, this is how difficult it
Feel
is.
free to put it in here.
Yeah, even in the middle of the day when they were going down, there's like an easy way, and then there's the more direct way, which is a bit more dangerous. But halfway down, you're at the top where the car park is. It's already sort of got that cloudy, misty looking thing, and it's just an eerie thing. And then they get down to this beach, and they said, well, from what he's heard, it's in this direction. And they get there and go in. Now, it's obviously got a lot of graffiti and stuff like that in there now. But this cave, people lived, 45 odd people lived in there for 20 or 30 years. And like I said, 1,000 people, at least that we know of, succumb to their food requirements.
See, when you're talking about throwing people off the cliff and everything else, all I could think of in the back of my head was the Lord of the Flies, where they squish Piggy with the rock off the cliff. That's all I could think.
Well, that's a similar sort of thing. It's about the de-evolution of people when they're stuck on an island. I remember reading that at school in England. Didn't read about the Sawney Bean Cave. Yes, I'm getting messages coming through now. So I think we are just about out of time.
Not a problem at all.
But we will let it go for now, and let us know if you've got any stories of feral people in your area. Oh, my voice is stopping working now. So I'm devolving as we speak. So, all right, take it easy, guys.
See ya.